Yay!
Alright. Welcome everybody back to TARP, the Art and Reaper podcast. I am Reaper.
And I'm Art of War. Let's do this.
Oh boy. This is gonna be a very fun episode because he was just taking a nap. Meanwhile, I couldn't sleep, so I've been up all day just trying to keep myself busy so I don't fall asleep.
Keep himself busy like the little pasta goblin he is.
You have no proof that I ate pasta.
I have no proof, but we do know you keep a closet full of pasta.
I will deny the allegations and provide no further proof as if I did it or didn't. I will, however, say...
There will be an intervention at some point.
You will try. I will, however, say, welcome guest to your monthly dose of TARP. Probably gonna become bi-monthly, as in twice a month instead of 1 in 2 months in the future, but we're still working on that. So, April. It's been a month.
Yes. It's definitely been a month. We've had several announcements and a pretty big debacle in terms of the gaming community with the recent big announcement.
I mean, many things have gone on, but the first one I'd like to talk about is, as of recording this, we are still on like a few days after release. I gotta tell you, I am so enjoying Oblivion.
Yes, as I'm assuming many will come to find out soon. Oh well, time to pull that band-aid off. I've never played Oblivion or Skyrim. This purple ghost over here has. He gushes about them, so you can imagine as soon as, Oblivion Remaster got revealed, yeah. I think he actually widened his eyes for the first time and didn't look drowsy. And it's scary.
I will tell you this, it may have been a shadow drop, and that's usually not a good thing, but I gotta say, it's exquisite. First of all, let me just start with one thing I very much appreciate. They didn't cut off any of the junk from the older version. Like, all the fun junk is still there. Another thing, it really feels like the code remained the same, but everything else changed. Like, the sounds are better, the graphics are wow, day and night. And honestly, that's one thing. I was discussing this with another friend a couple of days ago, actually yesterday I think, and I'm fairly certain we had a whole conversation as to how, like, it's one of the few times where we don't see people actively arguing about whether the game is good or bad. They're instead arguing whether the game is a remake or a remaster.
I'm gonna be in the very minority camp of it's mainly just a slightly polished re-release, but that's just me.
I wouldn't say slightly. If you see the old graphics and the new graphics, I would not say slightly.
Fair enough.
It's a big change, and honestly, that's another thing. That the main reason we're bringing Oblivion up is not to talk about Oblivion, but about this. So, some of my friends have been telling me for some time now that a remaster and a remake are two very definitive meanings of two very different words. Yet, I can tell you that for the life of me, I do not think a single game release has actually narrowed down what is a remaster remaster and what is a remake. Because the amount of times people calling a remake a remaster and a remaster a remake, going by the definitions I've been told they have, is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of people. I blame this on the industry quite a bit. Is that they tend to interchange the words heavily at times, to where I think a lot of people just get confused on just what is a remaster, what is a remake, and there's like confusion because of that.
So, the way that it's been explained to me, right? A remaster is basically just doing touch-ups, you know? Like
Yeah.
Devil May Cry 5 with Devil May Cry 5 plus Virgil.
Yeah.
And a remake is when they basically recreate the entire product, like what they plan to do with the God of War games in the future, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Now, while that makes sense in a way, one could also say that the opposite can also stand. Like, I don't know how to put this, but like, sometimes it gets confusing because I understand the definitions and how they add up, but you will so often see stuff that is like, I mean, take Oblivion. It's called Oblivion Remastered. Meanwhile, it's a total remake. New models, new sounds, new recordings, new everything.
Yeah.
But it's called Oblivion Remaster, not Oblivion Remake. Like, you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
The definitions can add up all they want. I don't think that there is a solid definition of what is what here, and I think people just get confused for no reason here.
Oh, yeah. I do kind of blame a bit of this on the industry, is because you do have like one company will use what would be like the logical definition, like we stated before. A remaster is just, some minor touch-ups here and there just to clean it up, and then boom, there you go, there's your release. And versus the remake, which is build everything back from the ground up, make it brand spanking new, etc. But then you got, the other person in the industry being like, no, we do it in reverse. And it's like, the fuck you? It's like, what the hell do you mean put it in reverse? It doesn't make any sense. I think that's where the confusion is.
I mean, fair enough. But also in regards to what you said earlier about how different is it, I'm gonna send you a picture. This is the actual in-game graphics between the one and the other.
Yeah, that honestly comes off as more so like, they put the game in like a new engine in a sense.
I mean, you'd have to remake the entire model. You can't just throw a mess from that into that. Yeah, like, first of all, look at the physiology of one and the other. That's not the same kind of face map.
Yeah, so they
really did
yeah,
the work.
Oh yeah, they really did the work. But I think this is also kind of leading to a bit of the problem with, like we mentioned, where it's like it's kind of hard to define what it is, and not hard in the sense of like, oh my god, this is so difficult. It's hard in the sense that no one company can keep the head straight on what is and isn't a remake versus a remaster.
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, that's where I stand, that there is not really any real reason to get your pants in a twist over it, Like, at the end of the day, we get a new product, that's all that matters,
Yeah.
And like, while we're on the topic, I need to also say this. I believe we've discussed this before, but I really need to make this clear. interaction buttons. And I'm gonna bring that up again.
Oh boy, here we go.
Interaction buttons. Why is it that I have to map out so many different games in my brain and try to figure out which one use E to interact and F as some ability or something else, and which ones use F to interact and E as some ability or something else? It's honestly like, will I bother to go into the keybinds and change it? Most of the time, no, because most of the time I'm like, oh, it's E or F, I remember it. But then you get into a period of life where you play like multiple games that have different inputs, and it can become a problem. Like the other day, to give an example, I was playing with a friend, and we were playing Deep Rock Galactic. So Deep Rock Galactic, for those who don't know, co-op shooter, you are dwarves, you fight in space, collect minerals, fight bugs. Very fun stuff, totally recommended, by the way. Especially if you have friends to play with. And so we've been playing a lot of Deep Rock lately. And one of our friends drops in, we decide, hey, let's go and do some Dark Tide instead. Now, you know, Dark Tide co-op shooter, similar vibe. We're shooting down the cult, like hordes of Nurgle, all the Halo Emperor and all that. And suddenly, I see him just charge forward with the Ogreen ability in an area with 0 enemies whatsoever. And there's a moment of me going like, what was that about? And he's like, oh, I've been so used to Deep Rock that the moment I went to a dark area, I tried to throw a flare, and that actually caused me to activate the ability. I'm like, you know what? Understandable. Because the other day, and I know this is an example from an example, but I told him the other day I was playing Sea of Thieves, right? Just going around, just enjoying some time on the ship at sea, pressing F to fix stuff, and then I decided to go and play something else. I think, if I remember correctly, it was Dark Tide. And you know, I've been getting used to like F is interact. Okay, so I go up to a chest, and I just yell at the chest, fight or answer to me. Amazing.
Yes. The flubs.
The worst part is when it happens with Space Marine, because I will try to interact with something, end up planting a banner which I won't be getting back for the next 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Nice.
And that's where the answer to where should I plant this flag goes to, which I guess we shouldn't say it on air.
Yep.
But yeah, and that's one thing, like, can developers please, like, can we please come up with, like, a universal rule as to, is E or F interact?
Make up your minds, please.
I personally would be more willing to say E is a better interact button. Because, you know...
But then the people who are their heads swimming in memes will be like, no, it's F for the memes.
Here's the thing, F though is, I feel there is less games that use F as an interact button. Like,
that is true.
Most of the games I can think of that we play together, usually E use interaction and F is some ability key.
Yep.
And like, I'm thinking about them, like, yeah, E sounds better. I don't doubt that in certain case could be made for F, but I think E is just better. And I guess this is like the kind of content I was expecting this podcast to turn into. It wasn't a matter of if, only when, but yeah, let's make E great again.
Let's make E great again.
Like, I remember that meme where it was Lord Farquaad with Markiplier's face and it said E. That's the mentality I want us to go with into this new era of solid interaction keys that do not change between games. Let's bring back E.
You heard it here first, folks. We're starting the mega movement.
We're starting the mega movement to keybind every interaction key to E no matter the cost. That's also interesting because, like, I'm considering what games use F, and of all the games I can think of that I play lately, I can only think of really 2 of them. Everything else is E. Like, even Deep Rock is E, which, you know, F is flare there, so
Yeah.
imagine trying to interact with something and you just throw a flare. Absurd.
I've done it.
Yep. So yeah, like, most games use E. Let's push E all the way and take over. Like, I feel like a military strategist telling his men that we got this. We can claim more territory. Let's go. And for some reason we're not doing it. Like, let's go for E. Let's just make everything E. Like, recently I actually did it in a game for the first time where I bounded the interact button. Because a friend of mine, there's this thing in Steam now called Friends Pass. I don't know if you know about it.
Nope.
Basically, if you have the game and it has a Friends Pass ability, it has a Friends Pass feature, I can download the full game, but I can only play it if I purchase it, or if I have a friend inside who sends me an invite to play with him, and I can only play it with him. So far, so good? Yeah.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine invited me to get into Lord of the Fallen with him, which is a Souls-like RPG, has a little bit more emphasis on classes from what I understand. But yeah.
Okay.
And it's like you can play the prologue for free. So I go in, I start going through the prologue, I come up to the first interaction. It's like F to interact, I'm fairly certain. And I go, okay, no, we're not doing this. We're putting this on E. And you know, I guess subconsciously I'm already heading there where I'm just gonna start changing every interaction to E.
From now on, all your interactions will be through the E button.
Yes,
There is no
like,
debate.
I know this may sound like a very minor thing to people who are not really into games that much. Then again, if you're not really into games, I don't know how we've managed to captivate you as a viewer, but thank you. I guess our first episode was about talking about mummified ankles in pyramid tombs in caverns.
Yeah.
We probably already have enough material to bring in the tinfoil crowd, and I'm here for them. I will fight for you.
He is here. Papa Reaper's here for you.
But I will say, I will actually start changing everything to E. Like, it's getting the point where I have to.
This needs to happen.
I cannot adapt that well anymore. I cannot always remember which one is F and which one is E. This is probably a very me issue because most people I talked about don't really have that big of a problem, but I guess also most people I talk about play like 3 games at a time. Meanwhile, I have like several terabytes of storage almost completely filled with stuff.
Yeah, that doesn't exactly surprise me.
I mean, it shouldn't, but yeah, it is a problem for me. But that's basically the crux of my argument. Just let's make E great again. Do you agree?
I mean, in all honesty, I'd probably say I use E more as an interaction than anything, so...
I mean,
yeah.
I know what games we played. Like, I know I'm right.
And it's a hill you're gonna die on.
Yes, I will. Most likely by the F people, but F them. Now imagine if I made that whole spiel just so I could deliver that punchline. That would be ridiculous.
Totally.
But
I
no,
just looked
actually
over at
believe
your
that-
desk.
I do believe that it deserves to be the interaction key more than F.
Fair enough.
If we get any comments on this, please tell me, are you E team or F team? Just so you know, if you're F team, you can leave the podcast right now. We don't want you here.
We do.
We do not want you here. Go with the Acadians.
We're not gonna talk about that yet.
Okay, fine.
We don't need
fine,
that started.
Fine. You're right, we're only 3 episodes in. I will not unleash myself.
Anyway.
Before
do we
I
go from
continue
this?
on with more of my antics, do you have anything to bring to the table this time around?
Oh, God. Well. Well, considering we had, some good news when it came to Oblivion, I feel like we need to voice our opinion on the... God damn it, Nintendo. Why did you have to do this? You could have had something that people were going to be happy about, not gonna murder you over with piracy and the like.
I'm gonna get real with you, Chief, right? I have ceased caring for Nintendo for some time now, and I hear everybody saying, but they're my childhood. Yes, they were also my childhood, but you at some point you gotta realize that some habits are harmful towards you as you grow up. Like climbing trees, for example. You can't do that with with how my back is nowadays. I'm gonna fucking snap myself like a twig.
Yeah.
Or fold myself like a pretzel, one or the other. And Nintendo is very much that way that you shouldn't really climb all that much anymore. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. Even when the DS cartridges used to be $50 back in the day, it was very much a case of you'll get like one, and you'll go for months playing that game, right? Especially with stuff like Pokemon.
What the Oh,
hold on. For some reason, it seems that we have some issues here. Let me see if I can fix it.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. I think Discord just had a hiccup. Can you repeat what you just said? Because I think you were botted.
Yeah, so did you.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like,
you might want to repeat what you said because what I was saying went through the recording. I don't think what you said went through the recording.
I was hearing the Domo Origato, Mr. Roboto over here, so I will trust you had some insightful words, as I will more than likely rewatch this podcast to hear those insightful words about Pokemon.
I was saying that basically spending $50 on a DS cartridge was fun back in the day because we played the cartridge for months.
Oh yeah.
Nowadays, would they spend? Okay, actually,
90.
Hold on. Let me just address something though. Actually, hold up. 90 or $80 for a game is a lot. Don't get me wrong. And I still don't think that buying a console for $400 is a good idea, even if it is cheap by console standards. Like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I cannot emphasize this enough. The thing I want to talk about that, and I think it deserves the biggest mention of all the things they announced. The thing about transferring your game from Switch to Switch 2, the fee.
Oof.
Yeah, like what was it?
Oof.
30, 20 bucks? How much was it?
Oh, why? Why?
You wanna know how much it costed to put a Game Boy Advance cartridge in a Nintendo DS?
If you had the cartridge, it was free.
Exactly. I didn't have to pay. Also, to put a DS cartridge into DSi
And a 3DS.
and a 3DS,
Free!
yes. Yeah, exactly, free. Like, I cannot stress this enough. I don't know what's wrong with you, Nintendo. Get some help.
Yeah. Honestly, it's just this whole debacle with the Nintendo Switch 2 is pretty much summed up as, yep, Nintendo went greedy, and it's gonna really bite them hard.
I hope, but at the same time, everybody I talk to is like, hey, I know it's bad, but I'm probably gonna buy some of their titles because Nintendo do. They grew up with them, and I'm here like,
Yeah, so have I with Pokemon and Fire Emblem. Doesn't mean I'm gonna be, you know, giving them the eggplant treatment just because.
yeah, like I also grew up like, I don't know, doing things I don't do anymore in a way. That's the point. And like thinking back on it, Nintendo was never a good idea. Like, they were so costly by comparison to other ones. And that really only struck me when I got my first PlayStation. And it was like, I went to the store and I basically had the option of I either get one game for the DS or I can get like 3 to 5 games for the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
That was a deal and a half right there. Like entertainment value plus you can play with your friends without needing an online connection. You know, you can just hook up another controller.
Yeah.
Back when the console came with multiple controllers, remember those days?
Oh, yeah. Back when local co-op was still very much alive.
Yeah, like what happened to them packing an extra controller in the box?
Internet. They know they can make more money because, hey, if you go buy a second console and another copy of this game, you and your friends can play together.
But see, the argument is null and void because that will possibly happen anyway. In fact, you probably could get more money by just packing an extra controller and upcharging the total value of the box. Like, people who won't play the game on their own will go buy an extra console. People who won't play with other people will go buy an extra console. The amount of times you will get off your house to go to a friend's house when the convenience of doing it from your own house will happen is significantly lesser to how much it used to happen. Right?
Yeah.
So why can't we just have a second controller? Like, if I want to play with my dog, I should be able to play with my dog. And I do mean a literal dog. Not that I have one, I'm just making an example of like, the reason you got a controller was so you could play with people who would usually be in the same room as you. Nowadays, friends are not usually in the same room as you, so this is not really the argument you can make. But anyway, I digress. I guess that's also a point towards the other camp because yeah, friends don't really meet up to play games together anymore. They just do it online.
Yeah.
But yeah, not to hijack your point too much. I know you already said it, but what was your reaction to the formation? Because as I said, to me I didn't really care, but it sounds like you did.
Well, for me, it's like, I'm one of those people that does like some of Nintendo's games, but hearing the Switch too, because I never got the original Switch. I never really cared to add it just because at the time I was playing PS4, I was starting to play some PC games. So for me, I didn't really have like the big connection drop to go, oh, I want to play the Switch, just because me and a friend played local co-op on like Mario Odyssey and the like. So it's like, okay, we already had like our big push with the Switch. So I thought, okay, if the Switch 2 can wow me, maybe, just maybe, I might drop some money for it.
I see.
But then you had the whole issue of, oh yeah, our console's gonna be $450, which is like, oof, that hurts. Oh yes, our game prices are now shooting up with $80 digital, $90 quote-unquote physical, which is more so just, here's a game code essentially. You're paying $90. You're paying $90 for essentially the case. And a little thing that says you can now play the game.
I mean, here's the thing. The CD doesn't even matter anymore if you don't have internet connection. Like a lot of people used to make the argument of like, well, the thing about physical copies is you can still have it when all these platforms go down. My brother, if the platforms go down, it no longer matters because everything is on platforms. Even your CD needs a platform to play.
Yeah.
I think that mentality kind of died after PlayStation 3, I think.
It really did. Like, oh god.
Because I still have some of my PlayStation 3 stuff, like the Teen case for Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Yeah. Like, even me, I think I honestly have more physical copies of PS3 than I do PS4 when I actually look at it.
Actually, if I was to tell you about my most archaic boxes I have, it would be from the Genesis Sega. Yeah, but that wasn't really my collection. It was more so, siblings, parents, that kind of stuff. I think one of the earliest games that I own and still have the box for, and was fairly early on, would be either Age of Empires 3, around the time it came out, or Lord of the Rings Conquest.
And I know there's gonna be that one person in the comments and be like, wait, you guys are this old? Like, yes. Like, in terms of everything, he is technically younger than me, but we are both fairly older than probably a good chunk of our audience.
Let me put it this way for you. My first PC game was Age of Empires 2, which came out on the year I was born, technically.
You just played it later.
Yeah, I played like 4 years later. And yes, I was playing a live action strategy game, real-time strategy, when I was 4 years old.
Yep.
And I was actually doing good. I was winning. Grant was like on easy setting, but I was winning.
Meanwhile, my first gaming experience was on the original Xbox, with PC being, if anyone remembers, the old interactive games where it's like point and click, you had to like, I remember one where it's like you had to help a fish in space trying to find other pets. It was weird.
The one
It was a weird time.
You know what else I remember? All those games you used to get from like cereal boxes.
Oh yeah, yep. There was also a lot of those.
Yeah, and like I think one of the most popular interactive games I can remember was one with Disney, where you had like Disney characters and you had to help them out with stuff like that.
Yep.
But I also remember us having an old computer, like very old. Like we had, by the time I was a toddler, we had two computers. One of them was like more in the Millennium era. It was running Windows XP even, which, you know, back then was like the stuff.
Yep.
But like I remember us having an older one, which had a paint program, and in that paint program, it had like paint effects you could use. And I'm like,
Yep.
why did people do away with that stuff? Like, you could do like a sparkle effect on areas you colored. You could actually put textures and stuff on your colored areas. And I'm like, why did people not do away with that? I still remember that, and I'm like, wow, that was such a good feature.
Yep. Like, oh god, I think one of the oldest ones, if you remember, I'm curious if you remember these. Remember the old, like, joystick boxes you would plug into the TV, and that was, like, the game? Like, you had, based on SpongeBob, you had, like, racers, you had all these games, and I think I actually burned out the SpongeBob one because I played that a lot trying to get through those levels.
I'll tell you this, I actually can easily tell you I had one that was basically SpongeBob where his nose was the joystick.
Yep, that's the one.
Yep.
That's the one.
I had one with Spider-Man where like it was a Spider-Man pattern and there was a joystick and there was a little mini figure of Spider-Man perched on top of the joystick. But the one I remember the most is one that was the mystery machine from Scooby-Doo, and there was a little ghost on the top that was the joystick.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, that one I remember playing a lot because it was a really fun game. You basically had to go through some sort of labyrinth while avoiding ghosts and gathering stuff like snacks and sandwiches for points.
Yep.
Yeah, and you always had to find some keys so you could exit the labyrinth.
Yep. Back in the day, gaming was much more Wild West than people actually realize. Like, so many people would love to say, oh yeah, you got so many options for games these days with all this, and I'm like, my brother in Christ, there were games you could only get in like small box Joy-Cons, and those had like 7 or 8 games minimum in there. Some of them even more than that. You think Wild West is today? No, Wild West was like several years ago.
I'll tell you this, I remember the first time I played the original Modern Warfare 2. We had just got our first modem, which was essentially a USB stick you could plug into the computer and you would have internet. And I remember every time you plugged that USB stick in, it made a fucking scream.
It's the scream of the goat.
Yeah, like the internet was screaming every time you would go in. And you know what? That was a good warning sign. I'm so sad that we took it away. That was a fair warning sign. The internet should scream every time you go in. And that's one thing, because I remember playing Modern Warfare 2 and getting into multiplayer for the first time, and like I was only getting buzz kills, but I was having fun.
Yeah.
And eventually you figure out the open and stuff like that, and start actually playing the game. It was very fun. Though I did miss out on the whole craze back in the early aughts with stuff like Team Fortress 2 and stuff like that, because I didn't really have Steam until 2011.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you right now, the games that got me into Steam were basically Skyrim, Darksiders 2, and Chivalry Medieval Warfare.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, me stuck in console land for quite a while.
Oh, speaking of console land, you know what else you remind me of? And I guess this episode is about retro games now.
Yeah.
Remember those very cheap consoles you would get for like $20 at the corner store, and they had like a cartridge with 1,000 games in it?
Oh yeah, and they were so cheap.
Yeah, and the best part was those 1,000 games was at the same 20, just copied over and over to make a list of 1,000.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was very bad games too. Like, there were some gems in there. Like, there was actual Donkey Kong, like the one where Mario has to dodge over the barrels.
Yeah, but then you would get so many. You're like, this is straight up what? Just the cheapest software you could find for a game.
I remember there was this one game in one of those called Olympic Jump. And basically it would start out and you would have this little running man who would start running on a straight line, and in the background would play the song, that song goes dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and basically the idea was you had to press a button right when he steps on a certain line and it makes a noise, which was a very high pitch, like very annoying noise. You had to press a button so he would then jump, and based on how well your timing was and what your technique was for, like, how long did you hold the button, how much did you go for the button, like you couldn't hold it too long or you would go over the sandpit. You had to basically have technique. The best part was you have this controller with like 6 keys on one side, 4 triggers on the back, a cross, and the analog sticks, right?
Yep.
And no clue which one is a jump. So it took us several attempts to actually even find which button caused him to jump. And it would be so fun in retrospect as an adult just thinking back to it, because it was just a few kids sitting in a living room watching a stick figure just go dun 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 dun, and then face plant into the dirt. Like, he wouldn't even jump, he would just and then would do a noise like So that by the time we got our first jump in, even though it was like barely beyond the line and actually played the good music, we were all like cheering as if we just watched Captain America catch the hammer in Endgame. Yeah, like, it was ridiculous what games we used to play back in the day.
It's just kind of funny, just when you remember this stuff, and you're like, yeah, the gaming landscape was a lot more wild back in the day, especially with what type of ransomware you could find that constituted a game.
Like, I was going to talk about some stuff that happened in other games we've played recently, but now you brought to me another thing that I want to mention.
Uh-oh.
Flash games.
Oh, I miss those so much.
Look, I know we have like 20 minutes in the episode, but Flash games, dude, like, I remember some of them and they were so fun. Like, a few years ago, I was studying with a friend who was about to join my D&D campaign, and I
Yeah.
noticed his profile picture, and I immediately recognized what Flash game it was from, because I am sure you played it. Like, knowing you, I'm fairly certain you know the one. Remember that one where you basically, it was a character customizer and you were building a robot?
Yes.
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, so here's the thing. Anybody who doesn't have any idea what we're talking about, there is no way to explain it better.
Yeah.
Like, you just had to be there for that moment in history, which was honestly a very short-lived moment in history if you think about it.
Honestly, yeah, in retrospect it was, but I can remember so many, like, Flash games coming out when Adobe Flash was still, like, the big thing for the internet.
Yeah, and it was like, if we really want to narrow it down as to when the, like, high rise of Flash games was, it was 2005, 2010, and that's it.
Yeah.
There was a half
Like, that
decade.
was when you just had, like, plethora to choose from.
Yeah, because after that, like, I feel as soon as the 2010s roll in, gaming becomes a lot more serious all of a sudden.
Yeah, like, oh god, I remember one I remember playing a lot just because I loved playing it was, you remember the old Flash game Crush the Castle? What was it, Crush the Castle, where you had the catapult and you had all the different ammunition types?
Yes, that was so good.
I loved playing that just so I could unlock the black hole, just so I could see how much destruction I could do with it.
There is actually a legacy collection of the Crash the Castle Flash games on Steam.
Really?
Yes. I also remember playing a lot of those, and they were very fun. Oh, you know another one that was really fun though? Remember Fragger?
Oh.
Very similar one.
Oh my god, yes.
One I really liked and played a lot, and it was actually very well designed for its time. Remember the Power Rangers Dino Thunder game?
Oh my god, yes. Oh.
And what was the other one? There was another that I don't remember the name of right now, but like, here's the premise, right? You had a squad of 4 team members, and it was like a 2D deathmatch arena sort of thing, and you were basically this elite troop of mercenaries that would go from one mission to another, and you had classes like the heavy, the sniper, the commando, stuff like that, the medic. I don't remember what it was called though. And I remember they had like the cheesiest voice lines in that game. Like,
yep.
The heavy would be like, stick around when he would hit you with the melee. Or like, you would choose the heavy as a class and he would say, I ain't got time to bleed. And you could tell they were ripped straight of the movies they were set in, but it was so good. I don't remember what that game was called though. And I feel like everyone, especially the guys, I feel like everyone who was into Flash games just played a little bit of Madness.
Oh god. Yes.
Yeah, Madness I feel like was on every website, and I feel like it was taking over everywhere. Same with Henry Stickmin.
Yep.
Same with the other stick figures. I don't remember what they were called, but I remember they were like a gang.
Yeah, I do remember those stick. I remember stick games. I remember the stick games anthology, as I come to refer to it every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
You had stick combat.
Yes.
You had Madness combat. You had just so much there, and it's like, whatever happened to it? And then you look at just, people moving away from Adobe Flash, and it's like, damn.
I mean, they moved away from Adobe Flash, but I feel like the spirit of those games stayed true because, like, think about it this way. People who were a lot into stuff like Madness and stuff like that got a lot into shooting games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People who probably were a lot more into the more puzzle solving side of things moved on to the more let's put it intuitive, yes, that's the intuitive action games like Hitman.
Yeah.
Like I can easily trace the line of which Flash game led you where. And then you had us guys who really liked the character customizer games that moved on to D&D.
Yep. Yeah.
I remember the Dragon Ball character customizer game. It was so over the top.
Oh god.
Yeah, like it had like Super Saiyan 5 hairstyle. Which was like this huge white mane with the black horns. You know the one.
I know the one because so many people kept making fan animations about it for the longest time. Like, what could be Super Saiyan 5? And it's like, for crying out loud, people, why do you need to make the hair to the point where he can now roll into a ball just standing?
I mean, here's the thing. You say that, but I'll tell you there was an even more ridiculous side of the internet. And of course, when I say this, you can immediately picture the kind of video it was. Like, it was made in Windows Movie Maker. It had the usual music that was like stock and available for everyone they used to have. Or it had some like weird thrash metal one. Or some famous thrash metal on some of them. Like, there were some bands that you would listen a lot to while watching stuff on the internet back in the day, and not because you put the music in the background, but because they were on every video.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like, I can tell you the amount of times I went to look for clips from Broly movie, and it was usually in some like AMV with like Animal or something like that playing in the background.
Yep.
Or Blow Me Away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stuff like that. And of course the most famous Broly MV, that I think there were like dozens of them with that song, was probably Monster.
Yep.
And I remember there were this side of the internet that was like the Dragon Ball fans, but for Pokemon, and they would do like additional evolutions of certain Pokemon. And it's funny how some of those designs actually kinda came to life for later. Like I remember an evolution of Charizard where he had like blue flames, and now I look at what's it called?
Mega Charizard X.
Yeah, Mega Charizard X, and I'm like, yep. Or like Mega Mew is completely ripped off from those days. Completely and entirely.
It's like, people, you predicted the future.
Or like people who would make actual Pokemon fusions. Which, by the way, now we have a game that does that, and it's really good, and it's called Pokemon Infinite Fusion. There's a shout out.
Yep, there's a shout out, and of course they have sprites of pretty much everything, and they keep adding more.
Dude, it's amazing. If you want a good Pokemon experience and you want to a classic Pokemon experience, please go either to the Reddit or the Discord server for the game and just get it. It's free, like, get it. Please, it's amazing. And like, yeah, but back in the day you had people actually doing that, and I remember like all the people who would fuse like the legendaries.
Yep.
Like Kyogre and Groudon. I saw so much of that. And it's funny because in those days we would look those things up and we would believe you can actually do it. We just couldn't figure out how.
Yes, the Wild West of the internet, where you had no idea what the hell was true or not when it came to game knowledge. Or just anything, really.
I mean, dude, I remember one time me and two friends were like in the house of one of my friends, and he had like the family laptop because nobody else was home, and we're looking up like creepypastas and stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah, and this was like during the day even, and we came upon the Lavender Down creepypasta.
Oh boy.
And I remember one of my friends literally sobbing and weeping on the floor. Keep in mind, we're like 10 years old back then. Which I don't think 10-year-olds nowadays would fall crying into the floor if you told them the Lavender Down creepypasta. And he was crying on the floor because he was like, "Guys, stop the video. Can't you tell that we're actually listening to the music that killed those children?" And I'm here like recalling that and being like, back then it was a morbid fascination to find out what was more about the story. Now I'm like, but we were all so silly back then to actually believe all that stuff.
Damn, we were stupid.
Yeah, because like, you know, if you had logic, you could easily tell. But
Yeah.
we didn't want to have logic. That's the truth of it. We wanted these things to be real.
Oh yeah, like what was it? The Russian. I remember the big one for me was the Russian sleep experiment, where it's like supposedly you had these Russian scientists doing this
I've
weird
actually
experiment.
heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, like I listened to the audio thing back in the day. I'm probably gonna re-listen to it again at some point, just because it's more so just an interesting fictional story more than anything.
Oh, I can
Because
send you a really good podcast about that and other stories like that.
Yeah, but it's funny how it's like little kid us back in the day. We would want to believe this. We would think,
Yes.
this is so true. This has to be real. And then just older would we bother to actually look it up. It's like, oh yeah, this is complete total BS. Why did we even think this was real to begin with again? Like, someone explain this to me.
Honestly, so many of those were legitimately just scaring us because we had no context. Like,
Yeah.
Russian sleep experiment, we never really listened to it, but I remember the image from it, right?
Oh yeah.
And I remember the image from Jeff the Killer. I remember and like we wouldn't really go much into it and like try to read the stories or find out. So for a long while it was just an image that was a mystery on YouTube and nobody knew what it really meant.
Oh yeah.
And then growing up as a teenager, you would actually find the stories on like Reddit and stuff like that, or other forums, and it'd be like, oh, this is the actual story. That's especially some of them were so poorly written. Like, I understand we were all in that phase of our lives back then, but some of those were so poorly written.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hilarious, honestly. Which, by the way,
The two big epitome ones was...
Speaking of Flash games, like the amount of Flash games that actually tried to be like, oh, this is not an actual Flash game, this is like a cursed game. Remember that?
Oh god, yeah, I can remember that.
Like all the people who made a Flash game about Sonic.exe.
Oh god, yes. You had Sonic.exe where it's like, what was the rumor again? Like, supposedly it would like curse you and you would have like these strange nightmares or you would potentially die or whatever the stupid rumors were. But then just looking back, I'm like, how were we this stupid to believe this was real?
I mean, some of the stuff I recall from back in those days is like, especially with the internet, you could really send anything to anyone and they would believe it. Like, it
Yes.
was a like time capsule in like that frozen moment in time where the internet was still, it wasn't something new because the internet has been around for decades already, but it was the moment in the early 2000s where it became extremely popular, and people who were kind of older, like even in their teenage years, they had no reason to bother with any of that stuff. But those of us who were like kids or adolescent in that era of the internet where it was a popular thing but not everywhere, I think we're just in the perfect time, in the perfect demographic to be affected by those events and actually consider them real.
Yeah, we were just in that sweet spot where it's like right there, just right at that apex where it's like, yep, I believe it. How do we know it's real? I have no idea. I just believe it's real. There is no way this is false. 5-10 years later, damn, I was an idiot.
I mean, yeah, and it's basically a lot of that back then, and I feel like that's something we have to dedicate like a future episode talking more about, like how things just were in that specific time period, because I think it was very fascinating, and I know one friend that would definitely love to bring in on that, who would have been a little bit older at the time, and well, still is.
I wonder who this could be.
Yeah. There is a friend that would like to bring in on that, because if we ever go over that topic, because it'd be very interesting to see like the side of the internet that was like, let me boot up my router and plug in the floppy so I can download so I can install the Warcraft update I download from the internet cafe.
Oh, God. Like, I know I was still, like, I would say old enough at that point to where we were going away from the old floppy disks into USBs, but I could still remember the nickname one person came up with. I don't know why, but instead of discs, it was DICK. So you can imagine how that could go for someone. I'm like, why did you come up with this?
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it was just him being an idiot, but...
Potentially.
Okay.
But yeah, like, that's the thing. We weren't there for, like, some of the other big craze of the time. That's why I want to bring in that person.
Yeah.
Because I remember one of our neighbors who was a little older than me, like 5 years older, he used to play a lot of Warcraft at the time. A lot of it. And, I would just sit behind him in his room, watching his computer, watching him play, and honestly, that's like one of my first experiences with why multiplayer games, why I love them so much, because like that was essentially, I think, the introduction right there. And it was just the perfect time because the times I would have to stay at their home and I would have the time to go and watch him play was around 2004, 2008, like the era where you had like Wrath of the Lich King and stuff like that going on.
Oh yeah.
And watching the day that he sat down and watched the trailer for Wrath of the Lich King, the first time I saw Arthas, I immediately knew that there would be permanent repercussions, and even to this day I can guarantee you there are still repercussions.
He doesn't have a problem. The rest is, you have a problem.
I have severe problems, yes. So yeah, there is a lot to unpack there, and there is a lot more to unpack in recent events as well that we didn't get to. But hey, tangents. It's what we promised that we would do.
Oh yeah. I mean, if I really wanted to go into a tangent, I would have gone over, like, the first ever Let's Play walkthrough I ever watched, and I will tell you this, you will never guess who the source was.
Well,
I will tell you that.
for the next time we decide to do the dedicated piece on retro stuff, because
Oh yeah.
it's definitely gonna be fun.
It is
but
one of those we will return to many a time.
I think so, yeah. But for now, I think it's time we start closing in the episode, because we're already over an hour.
Yep.
So, any closing message to the audience?
I think the only thing I could say is make sure you understand what you're reading on the internet, because in this day and age, you shouldn't be fooled like we were by anything.
Indeed. And I will say, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, whichever one you choose to do. I have been Shariper. He has been Art of War.
Yay.
And I guess we'll see you all next time. And hey, Art, do you remember the catchphrase?
Nope.
And have a good one. Bye bye.
Ah, yes.